The call came at 0300, which is never good. In the military, phone calls in the middle of the night mean someone's dead, someone's dying, or something's gone catastrophically wrong back home. I fumbled for my phone in the darkness of my barracks room, heart already racing before I even saw the screen. Unknown number, stateside area code. I answered anyway. "This is Detective Michael Torres with the Mesa Police Department," the voice said. "I'm looking for Staff Sergeant Danielle Price." I sat up, fully awake now. "This is she. What's wrong?" "Ma'am, I'm calling about a vehicle registered in your name. A 2019 Honda Accord, Arizona plates." He read off the plate number. My car. The car I'd left in my sister's care 8 months ago. "What about it?" "It was reported stolen 3 days ago. But here's the thing." He paused, and something in his voice shifted. "The report was filed by a Melissa Price. Says she's your sister. Says the car was taken from her driveway. That doesn't make sense. I gave her the car to use while I'm deployed. That's what I figured." Another pause. "Staff Sergeant, I need to ask, are you currently serving overseas?" "Yes, sir. I've been deployed for 8 months. "Semper Fi," he said quietly. "I did 12 years. 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines. I know what it looks like when someone's trying to screw over a deployed service member. And ma'am, I think that's exactly what's happening here." That phone call changed everything. Not because Detective Torres solved my problem, though he did, but because it revealed a betrayal I'd never suspected from someone I'd trusted completely. My sister had reported my car stolen while I was deployed, while I was serving my country on the other side of the world. And she almost got away with it. I need to go back to explain how I ended up trusting my sister with everything I owned and why she decided to destroy that trust while I was too far away to stop her. Melissa is 3 years younger than me. Growing up, I was her protector, shielding her from our parents' fights, helping her with homework, teaching her to drive in the parking lot behind the grocery store. Our childhood wasn't easy. Dad drank too much, Mom worked too much, and we learned early that the only people we could really count on were each other. Or so I thought. The drinking got worse after Dad lost his job at the factory. He'd sit in his recliner for hours, working through a case of beer, the television volume turned up loud enough to drown out any conversation. When he got really drunk, he'd get mean. Not physically, but verbally. He had a talent for finding the thing that would hurt most and saying it in the cruelest possible way. I learned to intercept his moods, to distract him when I saw the anger building, to keep Melissa away when things got bad. I'd send her to our room with instructions to put on headphones and do homework. Then I'd stay in the living room as a buffer, absorbing whatever venom he needed to spew until he passed out in his chair. It wasn't a heroic childhood. It was a survival childhood. And the main thing I survived for was my little sister. Mom knew what was happening, but she was too exhausted to fight. She worked double shifts at the hospital, coming home with just enough energy to microwave dinner and collapse into bed. I don't blame her now. She was doing what she could to keep us housed and fed in a situation that had no good options. But back then, it felt like abandonment. Like Melissa and I were on an island, and the adults who should have been protecting us had sailed away. We were close in the way siblings are close when they've survived something together. We had inside jokes, shared memories, the kind of bond that comes from late-night conversations in shared bedrooms, from covering for each other when one of us broke curfew, from building a fortress of two against a world that often felt hostile and unpredictable. I remember one night when Melissa was 12 and I was 15. Dad had been particularly bad, screaming about something trivial, throwing a plate against the wall storming out to a bar and leaving shattered ceramic all over the kitchen floor. I cleaned it up while Melissa watched from the doorway, her eyes red from crying. "Why is he like this?" she asked. "I don't know," I said, "but it doesn't matter. We have each other. As long as we stick together, we'll be okay." She nodded, and I saw something settle in her eyes. Trust. Complete, unconditional trust in her big sister, who always made things better. I wonder sometimes when that trust became something else, when she started seeing me not as a protector, but as a resource, when "we have each other" became "you have to take care of me." When I enlisted in the Marines at 19, Melissa cried. Not because she was upset, because she was proud. "You're going to be amazing," she said, hugging me at the airport. "You're going to see the world and do incredible things, and I'll be here cheering you on." She meant it at the time. I believe that. The sister I knew then wouldn't have lied, wouldn't have stolen, wouldn't have betrayed me for anything. But people change, circumstances change, and sometimes the person you trust most becomes someone you don't recognize. Melissa's life didn't follow the trajectory she'd hoped for. She got married young, to a guy named Derek, who seemed charming at first and revealed himself to be controlling and financially reckless. They had 2 kids in 3 years, bought a house they couldn't afford, accumulated debt that kept growing no matter how many overtime shifts Melissa worked. I met Derek twice before they got married. Both times, something felt off. Nothing I could point to specifically, just an instinct that this man wasn't what he appeared to be. He smiled too easily, agreed too quickly, and never seemed to have a straight answer about his job or his plans. "Are you sure about this?" I asked Melissa before the wedding. "You haven't known him that long. Maybe you should wait. Make sure." "I'm sure," she cut me off. "You don't know him like I do. He's going to be a great husband, a great father. You'll see." I didn't see, but she was an adult, and it was her choice to make. I swallowed my doubts and showed up at the wedding in my dress uniform, trying to be supportive, even when every instinct said this was a mistake. The problems started almost immediately. Derek couldn't hold a job. He'd get hired somewhere, work for a few months, then quit, or get fired over some conflict that was never his fault. Melissa made excuses for him. The boss was unreasonable. The work environment was toxic. He was just waiting for the right opportunity. But the right opportunity never came, and the bills kept piling up. I helped when I could, sent money home for groceries, for the kids' school supplies, for emergencies that seemed to happen every few months. I didn't mind. That's what family does. And I was doing well in the Marines, earning promotions, building a career that gave me stability I'd never had growing up. But the help never seemed to be enough. The phone calls from Melissa became more frequent, more desperate. Derek had lost another job. The mortgage was behind again. The car needed repairs they couldn't afford. Each time, I'd send what I could, and each time, the crisis would pass until the next one appeared. I kept a mental tally, though I never mentioned it to her. Over 7 years, I'd sent Melissa close to $40,000, enough for a down payment on a house, enough for a college education, enough for a fresh start in life if she'd used it wisely. But it all disappeared into the black hole of her finances. Derek's failed business ventures, credit card interest, late fees on late fees. No matter how much I sent, they never seemed to get ahead. I started to notice patterns I didn't want to see. The money I sent for groceries somehow never made it to groceries. The car repairs didn't seem to fix anything. The emergencies had a suspicious regularity, always timed to coincide with my paychecks. Once, I called to check in and heard casino sounds in the background before Melissa abruptly ended the call. But I didn't say anything. She was my sister. She was struggling. I wanted to believe she was doing her best with a difficult situation. I wanted to believe that the bond we'd forged as children was still real, still meaningful, still worth protecting. When my deployment orders came, I had to make arrangements for my life back home. My apartment lease was ending, so I put my furniture in storage. My bank accounts were already set up for overseas access. The only thing I couldn't easily solve was my car. I'd bought the Honda Accord 2 years earlier, the first new car I'd ever owned. Paid cash because the Marines had taught me about financial discipline, about not owing anyone anything. It was reliable, practical, nothing fancy, but it was mine, fully paid off, a symbol of the stability I'd built for myself. Melissa offered to keep it at her house. "You can't just leave it sitting in a storage lot for a year," she said. "Let me use it while you're gone. I'll keep it maintained, drive it regularly so the battery doesn't die. And when you get back, it'll be right here waiting for you." It made sense. Derek's truck was unreliable, and Melissa needed transportation for the kids. My car would get regular use instead of sitting idle, and I trusted her. Of course, I trusted her. She was my sister. I signed the title over to her keeping, made sure the insurance was current, and gave her the keys 2 days before I shipped out. "Take care of her," I said, only half joking. "I'll treat her better than I treat myself," Melissa promised. 8 months later, Detective Torres called to tell me she'd reported it stolen. Detective Torres explained the situation in careful, measured terms. He'd been assigned to investigate the stolen vehicle report, standard procedure. But something about the case had bothered him from the beginning. "Your sister claimed the car was taken from her driveway sometime during the night," he said. "No witnesses, no security footage, no signs of forced entry or hot wiring. Just gone." That's possible, though, right? Cars get stolen from driveways all the time. Sure, but here's what made me look closer. When I ran the registration, I saw it was in your name, not hers. She's listed as an authorized driver, but you're the owner. So I asked her about it. What did she say? She said you'd given her the car permanently, that you'd signed the title over to her before you deployed, that it was her car now, legally, and she was just still using your plates because she hadn't gotten around to changing them. My stomach dropped. That's not true. I gave her permission to use it, not ownership. The title's still in my name. I know. I checked. Title's registered to you, never been transferred. Your sister lied to me. He paused. Staff Sergeant, I've seen this before. Deployed service member leaves property with family. Family decides they'd rather have the insurance payout than the responsibility. They report it stolen, file a claim, pocket the money. It's fraud. It's theft. And it happens more than you'd think. The words hit me like a punch to the chest. Insurance fraud. My sister. The person I'd protected my whole life. The person I'd trusted with everything I owned was trying to steal from me. I don't understand, I said, my voice sounding distant, even to my own ears. Why would she do this? She could have just asked me for money if she needed it. I can't answer that, ma'am. What I can tell you is what the evidence shows. She reported your car stolen, claimed ownership she doesn't have, and filed what I suspect is a fraudulent insurance claim. If I'm right, that's multiple felonies. What happens now? That's partly up to you. I can continue the investigation, build a case, and present it to the DA for charges. Or, he hesitated, or you can try to handle it within the family first. Sometimes that's better, especially when there are kids involved. But I need to warn you, if she's already filed an insurance claim and received payment, that's going to be harder to walk back. I thought about Melissa's kids, my niece and nephew, 7 and 5, who called me Auntie Danny and sent me drawings in the mail. They didn't deserve to have their mother arrested. They didn't deserve any of this. But I also thought about all the times I'd helped, all the money I'd sent, all the trust I'd extended. And now this, a knife in the back while I was 12,000 miles away, defending a country that my sister apparently thought owed her more than I did. How did you figure it out? I asked. That something was wrong, I mean. Most detectives would have just filed the report and moved on. Torres was quiet for a moment. The service record. When I ran your name through the system, your military status came up. Active duty, deployed overseas. And I thought about what it means to be deployed. The vulnerability of it. The way you have to trust people to hold your life together while you're gone. I did 4 deployments myself. I know what that trust feels like when it's betrayed. Semper Fi, I said softly. Semper Fi. We look out for our own, Staff Sergeant. Even when we're not in uniform anymore. I didn't sleep for the rest of that night. I lay in my rack staring at the ceiling, running through memories, looking for signs I'd missed. The phone calls that always needed money. The crises that never quite resolved. The way Melissa's voice had changed over the years, becoming harder, more desperate, more focused on what I could give her than on how I was doing. Had she been planning this from the beginning? Had she offered to keep my car knowing she'd eventually report it stolen? Or had the temptation grown over time? The insurance money looking better and better as her debts mounted? I thought about the last conversation we'd had before I deployed. She'd been stressed about money, as usual, but there'd been something else in her voice, too. A calculation I hadn't recognized at the time. She'd asked detailed questions about my car, what it was worth, whether it was fully paid off, what kind of insurance I had. I'd answered without thinking. Why wouldn't I? She was my sister. She was going to take care of it for me. I thought she was just being thorough. Now, those questions looked very different. I thought about Derek, too. He'd been there when I handed over the keys, standing in the background with that smile that never quite reached his eyes. Had this been his idea? Had he seen my car as a solution to their problems, convinced Melissa to go along with a plan she never would have conceived on her own? Or had she changed so much that she didn't need convincing? Had the sister I'd protected my whole life become someone capable of planning this kind of betrayal? I didn't know. I wasn't sure I wanted to know. What I did know was that I couldn't handle this from 12,000 miles away. I needed to be there, face to face, to understand what had happened and decide what to do about it. I requested emergency leave, explained the situation to my commanding officer, Captain Martinez, who'd seen enough deployment betrayals to recognize the pattern. He listened without interrupting, then nodded slowly. I have seen this before, he said, more than I'd like. Service members trust family, family sees an opportunity, and by the time the service member comes home, everything they owned is gone. What usually happens? Depends on the service member. Some people press charges, some try to handle it quietly, some just walk away and cut their losses. He studied me for a moment. What are you thinking? I don't know yet. I need to see her first. I need to understand why. He approved the leave within hours, cutting through red tape that would normally take weeks. Before I left, he pulled me aside. Go handle your business, he said. And Price, whatever you decide, make sure it's something you can live with. Family's complicated, but so is justice. Don't let anyone tell you that blood means you have to accept any treatment. I flew home on a military transport, then caught a commercial flight to Arizona. 26 hours of travel, most of it spent rehearsing conversations that might never happen, preparing for confrontations I'd never wanted to have. I tried to sleep on the plane but couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Melissa's face, the sister I'd loved, the stranger she'd become. Detective Torres met me at the airport. He was younger than I'd expected. Mid-30s, fit, with the kind of watchful eyes that cops and combat veterans share. He shook my hand with the firm grip of a fellow Marine. "You didn't have to do this," I said. "Meet me, I mean. I wanted to see this through. Besides, I thought you might want backup for what comes next." "What does come next?" "That depends. I've been doing some digging while you were in transit. Your sister filed an insurance claim the day after she reported the car stolen. Claimed a value of $18,000. The insurance company paid out 12 days ago. 12 days. She'd already received the money. $12,000 that belonged to me, extracted through lies and fraud while I was serving overseas. "Where's my car now?" I asked. Torres smiled grimly. "That's the interesting part. It's parked at a used car lot about 30 miles from her house. Owner says a woman matching your sister's description sold it to him 3 weeks ago. Cash sale, signed title, except the signature on that title doesn't match yours. She forged my signature. Appears so. Sold your car, pocketed the cash, then reported it stolen to double dip with the insurance money. If I had to guess, she's cleared somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000 total." The number staggered me, not because it was large, though it was, but because of what it represented. $20,000. That's what my sister had decided our relationship was worth. That's the price she'd put on betraying me. "I want to see her," I said. "Before you arrest her, I need to understand why." Torres nodded slowly. "I figured you'd say that. I can give you a few hours before I move forward with the case. But Staff Sergeant, whatever she tells you, don't let it change your mind about pressing charges. What she did wasn't just wrong. It was calculated. It was deliberate. And she knew exactly who she was hurting." Melissa's house looked the same as it had when I'd left 8 months ago. Same peeling paint on the shutters, same toys scattered across the yard, same beat-up truck in the driveway that Derek never seemed to be able to keep running. My car wasn't there, of course. My car was at a used lot 30 miles away, waiting to be recovered as evidence. I knocked on the door, waited, knocked again. Derek answered, his face cycling through surprise, confusion, and something that looked like fear. "Danny? What are you? I thought you were deployed." "I was. I came back early." I kept my voice flat, controlled. "Is Melissa here?" "She's, He glanced over his shoulder. "She's in the kitchen. Listen, whatever she told you, she didn't tell me anything. That's the problem." I pushed past him into the house, following the familiar layout to the kitchen. Melissa was standing at the sink, her back to me, washing dishes. She turned when she heard my footsteps, and for a moment, I saw my little sister, the one I'd protected, the one I'd loved, the one who'd cried when I left for boot camp. Then her face shifted, and I saw someone else entirely. Someone calculating the angles, figuring out how to spin this, preparing the lies she'd need to tell. "Danny!" She forced a smile, drying her hands on a dish towel. "Oh my God, what are you doing here? You didn't tell me you were coming home." "No, I didn't." "Is everything okay? Did something happen with your deployment?" I stared at her, waiting. She kept talking, filling the silence with nervous chatter about how good it was to see me, how the kids would be so excited, how she'd been meaning to call, but things had been so crazy lately. Finally, I cut her off. "Where's my car, Melissa?" The smile froze. "What?" "My Honda, the one I left with you. Where is it?" "It was stolen." She recovered quickly, her expression shifting to concern. Didn't you get my messages? I've been trying to reach you for weeks. Someone took it right out of the driveway. Can you believe it? I felt terrible, but thank God I had it insured. Stop. She stopped. I know, Melissa. I know you sold the car to a used lot 3 weeks ago. I know you forged my signature on the title. I know you reported it stolen and filed an insurance claim for $18,000. I know you've been lying to the police, to the insurance company, and now to my face. The color drained from her cheeks. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. The detective who called me? He's a Marine, 12 years in 3rd Battalion. When he saw I was deployed, he looked closer, found every single thing you tried to hide. I took a step toward her. So don't lie to me anymore. Don't insult me by pretending you didn't do exactly what we both know you did. Melissa's composure crumbled. The confident liar I'd seen moments ago dissolved into tears. Real tears this time, I think, though I wasn't sure I could tell the difference anymore. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry, Danny. I didn't want to do it. We needed the money. We were going to lose the house. Derek lost his job again, and the collectors were calling every day, and I didn't know what else to do. You could have asked me. I did ask you. I asked you 100 times, and you always helped, but it was never enough. It was never going to be enough, and I saw the car sitting there, and I thought, maybe if I could just get enough money to catch up, to get ahead for once. So you stole from me. I said it flatly, without accusation. Just a fact. You stole my car, forged my signature, committed insurance fraud, filed a false police report, while I was deployed, while I was serving overseas, trusting you to hold my life together. I was going to pay you back. Her voice was desperate, pleading. When you got home, when I had more money, I was going to explain everything and pay you back. With what? The insurance money. The money you got from selling the car? I shook my head. That's not paying me back, Melissa. That's just moving stolen money around. She had no answer to that. The tears kept coming, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no anger, just a cold emptiness where my trust in her used to live. What's going to happen? She finally asked. Are you going to press charges? I thought about my niece and nephew, about the childhood Melissa and I had shared, the bond I'd thought was unbreakable, about what it would mean to send my sister to prison, to tear apart her family the way ours had been torn apart when we were kids. Then I thought about Detective Torres, about the Marines who'd trusted people back home and been betrayed, about what it meant to let this go, to send the message that it was okay to steal from deployed service members because family would always forgive. Yes, I said, I'm pressing charges. Melissa's face crumpled. Danny, please, think about the kids. I am thinking about them. I'm thinking about what kind of lesson it teaches them if their mother steals from family and faces no consequences. I'm thinking about what kind of people they'll become if they learn that love means letting people hurt you. I turned toward the door. You should have thought about them before you did this. You're the one who put them in this situation, not me. I walked out without looking back. Detective Torres was waiting in his car at the curb. I climbed into the passenger seat and sat there for a long moment, staring at the house where I'd once felt welcome. You okay? He asked. No, but I will be. He nodded. I'll take it from here. She'll be arrested tomorrow morning, after the kids are at school. I'll make sure it's handled as quietly as possible. Thank you for everything. Semper Fi, Staff Sergeant. We take care of our own. Melissa was charged with grand theft auto, insurance fraud, forgery, and filing a false police report. Derek was charged as an accessory after investigators determined he'd helped forge my signature and knew about the scheme from the beginning. The arrest happened the next morning, just as Detective Torres had promised. He made sure it was handled quietly. No sirens, no spectacle, just 2 officers who arrived after the kids had left for school and took Melissa and Derek into custody without incident. I wasn't there. I couldn't be. I'd said what I needed to say, and watching her put in handcuffs would have been too much. Whatever she'd done, she was still the girl I'd protected through our broken childhood. Some images you don't need burned into your memory. The news traveled through the family like wildfire. My parents, still living in their separate spheres of dysfunction, reacted predictably. Dad blamed Melissa's husband, Mom blamed herself. Neither of them took any responsibility for the dysfunction that had shaped us both. Extended family members called with opinions and judgments, most of them directed at me for pressing charges against my own sister. Blood is thicker than water, my aunt said. You should have handled this privately. She committed multiple felonies, I responded. How exactly was I supposed to handle that privately? You could have forgiven her. You could have given her a chance to make it right. She had chances, years of chances. She chose to steal from me anyway. The conversations went in circles. Some family members understood. Most didn't. I stopped taking calls after a while. Their opinions didn't change what had happened, and they didn't change what I needed to do. The trial took 4 months. I testified via video link from my duty station, describing the arrangement I'd made, the trust I'd placed in my sister, the phone call that had revealed everything. The military made accommodations for my testimony, setting up a secure connection so I could participate without abandoning my duties. Melissa's lawyer tried to paint me as vindictive, as someone who'd abandoned her family and then punished them for struggling. He made a big deal of the money I'd earned in the Marines, the stability I'd built, implying that I should have done more, given more, sacrificed more of myself to prop up my sister's failing life. Isn't it true, he asked during cross-examination, that you could have simply absorbed this loss? That your military salary and benefits would have allowed you to replace the vehicle without significant hardship? That's not the point, I said. Please answer the question. Yes, I could have replaced the car financially, but that's not what this is about. My sister committed crimes. She forged my signature. She lied to police. She filed a fraudulent insurance claim. Whether I could afford to absorb the loss doesn't make what she did legal. The prosecutor was better. She walked the jury through the evidence methodically. The forged signature, the timeline, the double-dipping that showed clear intent to defraud. She called Detective Torres as a witness, and he explained how he'd unraveled the scheme, why he'd looked closer at a case that most detectives would have rubber-stamped. I've seen too many deployed service members come home to nothing, Torres said. Their apartments emptied, their savings drained, their property stolen by people they trusted. When I saw that the vehicle's owner was active duty overseas, I knew I needed to dig deeper. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Melissa was sentenced to 2 years in prison plus restitution. Derek got 18 months. Their kids went to live with Derek's parents, who at least seemed like decent people. Stable jobs, no criminal records, a genuine concern for their grandchildren's well-being. I set up a college fund for the kids, not because I owed them anything, but because they were still my niece and nephew, still innocent in all of this. Whatever their parents had done, they deserved a chance at something better. I made sure the fund was structured, so Melissa couldn't touch it when she got out. Trust, once broken, doesn't rebuild easily. My car was recovered from the used lot and returned to me. The insurance company reversed the fraudulent claim. Everything was put back the way it should have been, except for the relationship that could never be repaired. I've thought a lot about forgiveness since then, about whether I made the right choice, pressing charges against my own sister, about whether there was another way, some path that didn't end with her in prison and our family shattered beyond repair. I don't think there was. Some betrayals are too big to absorb, too calculated to excuse. Melissa didn't make a mistake. She made a plan. She chose to steal from me, knowing I was deployed, knowing I couldn't protect myself, knowing I trusted her with everything I had. That's not something you forgive. That's something you survive. I'm still in the Marines. I've been promoted again since everything happened, and I'm now training the next generation of service members. Part of that training includes a segment on protecting yourself during deployment, setting up powers of attorney with lawyers instead of family, keeping documentation of everything you own, trusting people with access only to what they absolutely need. Some of the young Marines think I'm paranoid. They can't imagine their families betraying them. They look at me with the same naive trust I used to have, the same certainty that blood means loyalty. I don't argue with them. I just tell my story and let them draw their own conclusions. Detective Torres and I have stayed in touch. He testified at Melissa's trial, explaining how he'd unraveled the fraud, why he'd taken extra care with a case involving a deployed Marine. The prosecutor called him an example of law enforcement at its finest in her closing argument. He's retired now, running a security consulting business, but he still reaches out occasionally, checking in, making sure I'm doing okay. That's the Marine Brotherhood. It doesn't end when you take off the uniform. It's a bond that survives everything, even the betrayals that civilian relationships can't withstand. My sister writes me letters from prison sometimes. Apologies, explanations, pleas for understanding. I read them because I think I owe her that much. But I don't respond. There's nothing left to say. She made her choice. I made mine. We both have to live with the consequences. If you're listening to this and something resonated, if you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely, if you've ever had to choose between family and justice, I want you to know this. Protecting yourself isn't the same as giving up on love. Setting boundaries isn't the same as being heartless. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's worst impulses. My sister stole from me because she thought I'd forgive her, because I always had before, because I'd spent my whole life protecting her from consequences, and she'd learned that my love was unconditional. But love shouldn't mean accepting any treatment. Love shouldn't mean being a target. And family shouldn't mean being an easy victim. Detective Torres saved me because he understood something about service, about trust, about what it means to be vulnerable in a way civilians don't always understand. He looked at my case and saw a fellow Marine being betrayed, and he refused to let it happen on his watch. I'm grateful for that. Grateful that somewhere in the system, there was someone who cared enough to look closer, to question the easy story, to protect someone who couldn't protect themselves. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? Did you find unexpected allies who helped you through it? Leave a comment below and tell me where you're listening from. We share stories like this every day here at Her Service. Her Story. Stories about betrayal, unexpected allies, and the strength it takes to choose justice over easy forgiveness. If you don't want to miss the next one, subscribe and stay with us. Let's keep walking this path together.